The screen goes black. A lonely test pattern stares back, and somewhere down the block, a siren moans its weekly warning. Out front, a pair of glass milk bottles clink on the porch, while inside a record drops from a tall spindle and crackles to life. You can almost smell the warm tubes in the television as it wakes up, the picture slowly blooming while someone jiggles the rabbit ears wrapped in tin foil. That's not a museum, just a Tuesday night in the 1950s. Grab a cup of coffee, fellow time travelers, sit back for a moment, and let me take you there. We're diving into 50 things from the 1950s kids today will never understand. From party line telephones you shared with your neighbors to drive-in movies where the speaker hung on your window. We'll wander through the house, the corner store, the school hallway, the soda shop, and right down the open road, where tail fins cut the evening like shark fins at sunset. And if you think that's quaint, wait until we get to the phone clicker that changed channels without a single battery. The next piece is completely wild, promise. First light breaks and the milkman has already come and gone, stacking cold, sweating glass bottles in a wire carrier and whisking away the empties. It's a small ritual that feels like magic. A door opens, breakfast appears. Step into the backyard and you see a clothesline stretched like a tightrope between two poles. Dresses and sheets dancing in the breeze with wooden clothespins holding on for dear life. The whole neighborhood's laundry becomes a calendar of the week. Inside, the washing machine isn't a push-button whisper, it's a ringer. Two hungry rollers turning like a factory gate. Mothers told kids to keep their fingers back because that machine bit back. Before the carpet vacuum showed who's boss, rugs went over the line and got a thumping with a rattan beater, dust exploding in the sunshine like tiny fireworks. It was work you could hear, smell, and wear. Television wasn't a sealed mystery box. It was a living room appliance with a personality and a temper. When the picture rolled, you reached for the vertical and horizontal hold knobs like a pilot leveling wings. If the set went truly sour, a TV repairman made house calls, lugging a caddy of glass tubes that glowed like little city skylines. And at the corner drugstore, a tube tester stood ready, a self-service checkup for the family TV. Evenings could turn into slideshow nights. Dad hauled out the projector, clicked in a carousel of Kodachrome slides, and suddenly summer looked better than you remembered. Blue skies deeper, smiles brighter, vacations tidier. The room went dark, the screen lit up, and you could hear the gentle cha-chunk between memories. Simple, sure. But in that darkness, families sat shoulder to shoulder, time pausing between each bright rectangle. If you think laundry day sounded gnarly, wait until we share a phone line with half the block. That's coming up, and it's delightfully nosy. Picture this. You lift a heavy handset, dial a number by sticking your finger in a hole, and wait while the dial spins back with a mechanical purr, one digit at a time. That was the rotary phone, and it made calling someone feel deliberate, almost ceremonial. Now add the twist that would blow a modern kid's mind. Party lines. Several households shared one line. You'd pick up and hear Mrs. Peterson chatting with her sister. Etiquette said, hang up and try later. Not everyone did. Gossip flowed faster than a news wire. Long distance? You didn't just dial. You asked an operator. Person to person or station to station? She'd ask in a brisk musical voice. That phrase alone can teleport you to a kitchen with a wall phone, a curly cord, and a notepad shaped like a lemon. And if you were away from home, you hunted for a phone booth, drop a coin, hear a clink, and make the call with city noise pressing against the glass. Television, meanwhile, had its own rituals. Stations signed off late at night. No endless stream of shows, often with the national anthem and a test pattern that stared into your living room like a stoic owl. If the picture started rolling, you grabbed those wonderful, mysterious vertical and horizontal hold knobs and tried to steady the world. Reception came on the backs of rabbit ears. 2 metal antennas you posed like a yoga instructor. If all else failed, you wrapped them in aluminum foil and swore it helped. Sometimes it did. Sometimes you just felt better believing it. What was on? You had a slim oracle called TV Guide. No on-screen menus, no search. Just a tiny magazine that told you when your show would flicker into existence. And then in 1956 came a sci-fi miracle, the ultrasonic clicker remote. No batteries, no wires, just a sharp metallic click that made the set obey. Kids competed to be keeper of the click. Before the set sprang to life, it had to warm up, glowing tubes rousing like embers. The picture didn't just appear, it arrived. In your pocket, a revolution was happening too, the transistor radio. Suddenly music traveled onto front porches, into tree houses, under pillows past bedtime. AM radio stitched together a nation with countdowns and contests. The earliest top 40 formats were forming, and DJs became ringmasters of teenage America, turning jukebox favorites into national anthems. All of this made communication feel tangible. You turned dials, pressed coins, flipped pages, aimed antennas. Information wasn't frictionless, it had texture, and that texture made moments stick. Up next, music you could stack, drop, and dance to, plus the most 1950s fashion you can imagine. The next piece is completely off the charts. Drop a 45 RPM single onto a tall spindle and hear that satisfying clack as it lands on the platter. The needle kisses the groove and the room fills with something electric. Elvis shaking the rafters, doo-wop harmonies tight as a barbershop, a backbeat that dares your feet to stay still. Record players didn't just play music, they performed it, especially the ones with record changers that stacked a party's worth of 45s and fed them one by one like a jukebox at home. Speaking of home, some living rooms had hi-fi consoles the size of a small car, polished wood cabinets with speakers that made the floor hum. Families treated them like furniture and altars all at once. But for pure teenage energy, nothing beat the real jukebox glowing in a soda shop, chrome shining under neon, 10 cents buying you immortality for 3 minutes. Pick a song, slide into a booth, and watch the needles swing. At the counter, a soda jerk in a paper hat built chocolate malts and cherry phosphates like a magician. The clink of thick glasses, the whir of a blender, the blur of conversation. This was the soundtrack of after-school America. Down the street, the gym lights popped on and a sock hop spun into motion. Kids in stocking feet to protect the shiny floor. Couples circling like planets. Fashion had a rhythm too. Poodle skirts swirled, stitched with felt and flair, while saddle shoes marched the hallways with crisp confidence. It wasn't subtle, and that was the point. Youth culture was accidentally inventing itself with every dance step and diner booth. And when Friday night hit, you rolled into a drive-in movie, a metal speaker hooked to your window, the picture bigger than dreams, mosquitoes bumping the windshield like curious critics. If you weren't at the movies, you might be parked at a drive-in restaurant where car hops, sometimes on roller skates, delivered burgers in trays that clamped to your door. The car became your booth, your stage, your front row. Music and youth in the 50s weren't background, they were the engine. The culture moved on a groove you could hold in your hands. A stack of 45s, a jukebox selection card, a straw striped like a candy cane. Stay close. Next up, we're hitting the dinner table, the corner store, and the mail-order dreams that made holidays feel like magic. The next part is unbelievably satisfying. Open the oven and slide in a metal tray. Turkey, peas, mashed potatoes, all tucked into neat little compartments like a culinary filing cabinet. The TV dinner didn't just feed you, it felt like tomorrow on a plate. You'd peel back the foil with an oven mitt and think, this is modern. Meanwhile, the microwave was still a sci-fi rumor. Dinner had to earn its heat. For a real treat, you wandered to the Five and Dime, Woolworths or a cousin by another name. Counters overflowed with everything from embroidery thread to goldfish. A few coins could buy a small kingdom, a yo-yo, a comic book, a fistful of penny candy that actually cost a penny. If you were truly thrifty, you saved S and H green stamps. Each grocery run added sticky little rectangles to a booklet. Fill enough pages, and you'd trade them for a toaster, a clock, maybe that fancy picture Mom kept circling in the catalog. It turned errands into a treasure hunt. Some things you couldn't buy outright. Stores offered layaway. They held the item while you made payments, interest-free, patience required. And then there was the thick, glossy spell book, the Sears Wish Book. Kids and parents took turns dog-earing its pages, circling sleds and sewing machines with equal fervor. The mail-order universe made small towns feel big. You didn't have to go to a store for everything. Salesmen knocked. Encyclopedias sold in volumes that marched across a bookshelf like troops, promising to put the world under your lamplight. The Fuller Brush Man left samples and smiles. The Kirby vacuum rep rolled in, snapped together chrome wands, and proved no rug was truly clean until his machine had its say. Doorbells were retail's front line. Thirsty? Return your empty soda bottles for the deposit, 2 cents, 5 cents, just enough to feel like you'd earned the next cold one. And for a jaw-dropper, for decades, a Coca-Cola cost a nickel. Prices were steadier, not always kinder, but that 5 cents painted on a diner sign could make a kid feel rich. Sundays turned the world down to a gentle hum. Under blue laws, stores stayed closed, sidewalks rolled up, and the day felt slower, softer, almost ceremonial. Families gathered, neighbors waved from porches, and the week exhaled. This was a landscape where money had weight and shopping had texture. Stamps to lick, pages to circle, bottles to return, coins to count. And if you think that sounds quaint, wait until we hit the open road. Tail fins slicing dusk and a paper road map that unfolds wider than your windshield. The next stretch is a beauty. Slide into a bench seat that stretches door to door, turn the key, and the engine answers with a low, confident rumble. Before GPS, you navigated with paper road maps, free at gas stations, accordion monsters that never folded back the way they came. Families plotted cross-country trips with AAA triptychs, flip book routes marked with grease pencil care, and somewhere in the glove box lived a dog-eared Rand McNally atlas, its state lines etched into memory. Pull into a station and stay put. A uniformed attendant jogs over. Fill her up? Then pops the hood, checks the oil, scrubs the windshield, and hands you a map with a smile. Full-service gas wasn't premium, it was standard. Tires wore white walls like tuxedo cuffs, and cars sprouted tail fins that made every driveway look like a launch pad. Slide the shifter on the steering column, 3 on the tree, and you'll understand why driving once felt like operating a machine, not just steering one. Travel had a second map. One too many families needed to drive safely. The Negro Motorist Green Book listed hotels, restaurants, and gas stations where black travelers could count on dignity on roads where the wrong stop could mean danger. It turned fear into a plan, and a plan into the freedom of the highway. That, too, is the 1950s. Chrome shining in the sun, and hard truths tucked in the glove box. Cars weren't just transport, they were stages. A drive-in movie, a diner tray clipped to a half-rolled window, a sunset spinning past the dash while the radio stitched you to the rest of America. There was risk and romance in equal measure, and the road felt open in a way a screen never will. Buckle up. Well, actually, many people didn't, but we will as we head from the highway to the homeroom where the bell rings, the ink is purple, and the next drill will make your heart thump. The next piece, it's intense. The bell clangs, desks scrape, and a teacher claps erasers out an open window, chalk dust drifting like a small blizzard. Tests arrive warm and fragrant from a mimeograph, that unmistakable purple ink and a smell no candlemaker has dared to bottle. Copies at the office come from carbon paper, inky sheets sandwiched between pages. Press hard, and you'll have a perfect and perfectly smudged duplicate. Communication leaves fingerprints. Beneath all that routine thrummed a nervous drumbeat. The siren wailed its weekly note, and the class practiced duck and cover. Down on the floor, hands over necks, eyes to the tile. Civil defense posters shared space with alphabet charts. It was a choreography kids learned by heart, a mix of reassurance and fear that only makes sense when you're tracing the shadows of the Cold War. The tools and the training were tactile. Pencils had weight, paper had bite, and everything seemed to have its own sound. The ring of a bell, the snap of a ruler, the squeak of chalk, the soft whirl of a film strip projector. Office life and school life overlapped in the clatter of typewriter keys, the ping of a carriage return, the quiet pride of a straight A written in red ink. It wasn't better or worse, just different and absolutely unforgettable. Okay, time travelers, one last stop. Stick with me for a wrap-up that ties it all together and asks you to do something right now before this glow fades. The final bit is short, sweet, and important. So there you have it, 50 things from the 1950s that kids today might only glimpse in a museum or a movie. Milk on the porch, clothes on the line, phones that listened back, TVs that warmed like campfires, stamps you licked for rewards, bottles worth a nickel, tail fins cutting dusk, and drills that sent a hush across a classroom. Each one was a texture, a sound, a small ceremony that made ordinary days feel sturdy, shared, and real. If a moment or two tugged at you, if you could almost hear the click of the remote or smell the mimeograph ink, don't let it pass. Share this with another time traveler. Tell us which one you remember, or which one surprised you most. And if you want more journeys like this, where we drop the needle and jump straight into the groove, do me a favor, like this video and subscribe right now. It helps more than you know, and it keeps our little time machine fueled for the next ride. All right, fellow travelers, hang up the party line, return your soda bottle, and I'll meet you at the drive-in next week.